Okay, good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us as we jump back into Torah Chof Gimmel b'siyata d'shmaya. And this morning's shir is generously sponsored by Zev Kleinli, nishmas, his parents, Revka Barinder, Simcha and Ya'akov ben Yeshעיהו. Also dedicated anonymously nishmas, Nathaniel ben Reuven and Yehuda Leib ben Shmuel. The neshamas should have an aliyah in the schus of our learning together this morning. So yesterday, Be'ezras Hashem, we were talking about the concept of matzah oimoitza, right? That was the last inyan that we covered, and we spoke about matzah oimoitza, about the two aspects of marriage, right? The two possibilities. And the Rebbe said that it's not actually speaking about marriage per se, but it's also speaking about parnassah. Because the Gemara tells us that a person who steals away somebody else's parnassah is like they steal away their wife, their spouse, right? There's a deep connection between spouse and a wife, as we're going to see actually in a later Torah in Likutei. Rebbe Nachman goes into that very deeply. And there are two kinds of experiences of parnassah that reflect what we are learning about from the beginning of parnassah in anpin chashuchin chas v'shalom, a parnassah with a darkened face, or parnassah ba'anpin nihirin, or parnassah with a face that is shining, with a shining, glowing face. Two different aspects of the way that a person could experience this world, either in a way of wholeness, fullness, youthfulness, connecting to the source, being able to access the godliness within creation and to live simply with their mind on the tachlis, right? Which is the aspect of melach, right? Bris melach olam, the aspect of the covenant of the salt, or chas v'shalom, the possibility of living in the very, very opposite way, where a person is living out of touch with the consciousness of the tzaddik, out of touch. If you don't mind closing the door behind you, Amud. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, where a person is living disconnected, right, from life, from arpnei melech chayim, from the capacity to just enjoy life, right, and be in touch with the goodness and the sweetness and the holiness of life as itself, and needs, like we said yesterday, from one of the chevra on the chat, to just keep on adding salt and salt and salt and over salting things to the point that it's just unbearable, and they're no longer able to just experience the simple sweetness of the simple things, right? Like the tam that we were speaking about yesterday, and the story of the chacham and the tam, just to live simply and to enjoy life without constantly needing to run after yesh leimanet, right? Some asayim, like we said. So now we jump into Eis Dalid. We're on page Lamed Hey, on the left-hand column on the bottom, and the Rebbe says like this. V'zeh b'chinas mezuzah. And this is the concept of the inyan of a mezuzah. So first of all, what's a mezuzah? Right? A mezuzah is guarding, like the particularized Chochmah explains over here, a mezuzah is guarding a person's journey outward. The mezuzah is the place where on your way out, you're reminded of who you are and why you're going out. Whatever your endeavor is, whatever a person's doing, for whatever reason the person leaves, let's say their home or any other place, person's going out into the world, put your hand on the mezuzah. Some people even have a minhag to say some sukkim, whatever it is, and a person goes out, and the mezuzah guards that journey, right? It's sort of supposed to reinforce the fundamental emunah that whatever a person's doing, a person goes out to do in this context, masu matan, it should be done be'emunah. Right? The mezuzah guards what is the consciousness as you leave your home, and what's the consciousness as you return to your home. Right? Which is the concept of going out in order to get things that you don't already have. It's a bechina of filling a lack. And the mezuzah is there to guard that journey. So the Rebbe is going to tell us that mezuzah is the symbol for all of this. How do we know? Ki isa b'medrash, because the medrash tells us lama nikra shman zuzeh. Why were coins? The coins in the times of the Gemara used to be called zuz, right, or zuzin. The Zab and Abba betray zuzeh, right, like we say in Chad Gadia. Why is it called a zuz? Because it's a reference to movement. because coins are constantly transferring one person to the next person. This one uses coins to buy what he needs, and then that person uses that very same money to buy what he needs, and then on and on and on. The coins are moving from one to the other. So we have a connection already between mezuzah and zuzin, coins and the mezuzah, meaning there's some deep connection between this thing that you have hanging on your wall and the journey outward in order to get what you need to be able to support the home. The mezuzah, it's there to accompany you as you're going out to get zuzin, right? And also, again, the very movement of inward to outward, right? The very movement to a place of lack to a place of fullness, and for what purpose, and how do we experience the lack, etc., is all wrapped up into this word zuzin, right? And that's the pasuk in Iyah. It says, "Vaya Shakkai b'tzarecha." HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be b'tzarecha at your gates. This is, of course, what we put on our mezuzah, right? The shem Shakkai. Shakkai b'tzarecha. And then the rest of the pasuk says, once you have Shakkai b'tzarecha, so then money is flying to you. Like the Gemara darshans on that pasuk, Parnassah will just come very, very easily to a person, because it all has to do with mezuzah. But now we understand that it's not stop having mezuzah on your house, right? Because it's always something deeper, right? So what is it? It means the reorienting, the refocusing of one's consciousness vis-a-vis why they are in and need to go out in the first place. Why they are mezuzing, right? Why they are going from zuz, they're moving from in to out, right? In order to get this thing called zuzin, right? The whole thing is related to movement. And if you have Shakkai b'tzarecha, why is it that we put Shakkai on the mezuzah? Now that you understand that this is really what the mezuzah is for, in order to safeguard a person's consciousness as they go out, that they should be doing their maso matan be'emuna. That's what the mezuzah is for. So why Shakkai? Says the Rebbe, ki Shakkai hu b'chinas bris. Because the name Shakkai is correlated to the midah of bris. We know that there are 10 shema shein and imchakim, right? The most fundamental of all the names is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, which is the only name that refers to Hashem himself, mamish, the atzmus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As the Mishnah tells us that before HaKadosh Baruch Hu's, I think it's a Mishnah, could be a Medrash, that before Kaidim the Bria Sa'olam, it was just Hu Ushmai Bilvad. It was Hashem and his name. Right, meaning before any of the other expressions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's midas, all there was the Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Obviously, there was no letters because there was no space and time, right, that's necessary in order to write out those letters. But what the Shem means, right, which is Moira on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's atzmus and Hashem's beingness, Haya Hay B'Viyah, meaning the very essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's being. So that is irrespective of any expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's creating the world. But the rest of the 9 names, right, of these Eser Shem Shein and Ochakim relate to different midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So whereas Yud-Kei Vav-Kei relates to Tiferes, because it's the core of the manifestation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's expression, right, as unified in the aspect of bringing together all different dual elements that come into creation, whether it's Chochmah and Binah, whether it's Chesed and Geulah. Tiferes is the heart and soul of the whole system, Gesundheit. So Tiferes manifests Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and that's the shame that's associated with that sphera. All the other spheres, midas, have names of Hashem that are associated with them, like the Medrash tells us in Parshas Shemais. Lefi Maisai ani nikra. Hashem says, I am called by my various names, Lefi Maisai, in relation to my actions. So all the other names are distinct from the Shem Havaya, which is why the Shem Havaya is called the Shem Ha Etzem, right? It is the essential name. All the other names, there's a mighty distinction between that name and all the other names, because all the other names refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Gilui within creation. But the Shem Yud-Kei Vav-Kei is Hashem himself, Kiviyachol. It's mamish, referring to Hashem, right? Which he's essential component, facet of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's identity, so to speak, is the fact that he exists. That's like the only thing that you can say actively about Hashem, right? He exists. He is called in the Rambam. Rebbe Nachman makes usage of this term in a number of places. The Ramak makes usage of this term in Pardes to remind him he is called Mechuyev HaMetzias, right? Mechuyev HaMetzias. He has to exist. There's no existence other than him. He is existence, right? And that's the idea of Hu Ushmai Bilvad. There was just Hashem and that name. But the other names refer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's actions, right? So, for example, you have the Shem, you have the Shem Ka. Ka is Chochmah. Yud and He. It's the Shem Chochmah. You have the Shem Yud Kevav Ke with the Nekudas of Elikim. That's Binah. You have the name Kel. It's Chesed. Elikim is Kavura. We said Yud Kevav Ke is Tiferes. You have the Shem Yud Kevav Ke Tzavakos, which is Netzach. Elokim Tzavakos, which is Hod. What name do you have for Malchus? You guys know the name for Malchus? You have to know. No. Aleph Dal Nun Yud. Right? Adni Sefasai Tiftach, because it's all about our words. Very important that we should have this. It's like basics. Adni is Malchus. Okay, so what's the shame for Yesod? Is Shakkai. And Yesod is the Inin of Bris. Says Rebbe Nachman, Ki Shakkai u'bechinas Bris. There's a reason why we put Shakkai on the Mezuzah. If it's true that the Mezuzah is there to safeguard our consciousness as we go out to make Parnassah, and we said that in order to be saved from the Ayin Anpin Chashuchin, right, from those 70 faces, the idol worship of Tzedakah, not the Emunah, is Tikkun Bris Kodesh. Remember, it's only natural that on this thing that's guarding your exit from home to the outside to do Mekach Memkar, as you pass by this thing called a Mezuzah that shares a root word, with the word Zuzin, right, and you're moving for the purpose of getting what you don't have and bringing it back, that you would have on the mezuzah emblazoned the shame of Tikkun Bris, the shame Shakkai. Ki Shakkai u'bechinas Bris. K'may shekasa, as the pasuk says, Ani kel Shakkai. I am kel Shakkai. Pray Reuven. Pray Reuven. Bring children into the world, the aspect of Bris. So but it goes deeper, because this is pshat that the Gemara in Yerushalmi Brachas tells us. Sha'aseres hadibros heim b'kriya shema, because the aseres hadibros are all hinted to in Kriya Shema. All the aseres hadibros show up in different parts of Kriya Shema. V'diber loy sachmoid is keneged uchsavtam al mezuzos. When you want to know where the loisa say of loy sachmoid, you shall not desire, covet that which someone else has, right? Which is maybe the essence of masomat and shaloi be'emuna, where a person is not sameach bechalkoi, where a person is always looking to see what others have and what they lack. Loy sachmoid is keneged uchsavtam al mezuzos. Because l'chayra ma kesher. What's the connection between uchsavtam al mezuzos and loy sachmoid? Why should it be that that's the lav that is associated with uchsavtam al mezuzos? Says the Rebbe, it's very simple. Because through the inin of mezuzah, we can be mevatal chendas mammon k'nis Geulah. Like we learned, melach, when a person has bris, when a person has tikkun bris, when a person has kel Shakkai, when a person has the inin of mezuzah, then mammon chaser. Then it gets away tavis mammon. And so that says the Rebbe. Another source, the pasuk in Tehillim says, "V'ziz sadai imadi." That's what the pasuk actually says. "V'ziz sadai imadi." Hashem says, "The bird of the field is with me. I look after everything." Hashem says, "I look after every creature in the world, even v'ziz sadai, even the not the bird, even the creepy the." Some translate it some say it's a bird, and some say it's creepy crawly. Yeah, because I have both in my head. I probably saw both. Right, both. But some kind of creature of the field is with me. Says the Rebbe, well, Sadai, if you change the letters, can spell Shakkai, and Ziz is Mezuzah, Zuz. The Ziz, Shakkai, if a person has the Ziz of the Zuzin of Mezuzah with Shakkai, right, meaning supported by the Indian of the Mezuzah of Periyavarivya, the Indian of Tikkun Bris, imadi. Such a person is with me. Ayidei shmir sabris, ayidei mezuzah. Says and zeichel bechinas ba'ar pnei malachayim. Right, you have mamish. The joy of soiva samachas as panecha, like we learned earlier. Vatchi ruach Yaakov aviyam. The inin of chayas, the inin of simcha, and so then you have the inin of smach zvulun. What was the next word in smach zvulun? B'tzeisecha. Tzeisecha is going out of your home, kissing the mezuzah on the way out. Okay, this is mezuzah rediscovered. I'll include it in my curriculum that I'm making now.
You can also say the ziz tzadai, zuz, because basically it's not Shakkai, it's a sin, it's not a shin. You can say zuz, the little dot.
Yeah, that needs to move over. Beautiful. Yes, v'ziz Shakkai imadi. All right, changes the way that we think about mezuzah. What is a mezuzah? All right, what am I supposed to think when I pass by a mezuzah? Maso mata be'emunah. I see Shakkai, boom, it reminds me, tikkun abris, why I'm in this world, what's the tachlis, what's the goal? Maso mata be'emunah. And then smach zvulun b'tzeisecha. Then as you go out of your home, you'll be happy and not anxious, because you remember, you put it into the context. Maso matan is be'emunah. That's pshat. That referring to the writing of the mezuzah, it says, don't think that it's less than kriya, than writing Sefer Torah, writing tefillin, writing a Megillah. No, uchsavtam al mezuzah ispisecha v'shirecha. Says no, the ksiva has to be mamish tam, right? She ksiva tama, right? The Gemara in Shabbos, Gemara Menachos, you shouldn't write a beis and say it's good enough. It's if it's supposed to be a chaf. Every letter has to be bidyuk the way that it has to be. It has to be perfect. The mezuzah has to be written completely. Ksiva tama, uchsavtam. Says the Rebbe, what's the reference to uchsavtam? Al mezuzah is beisecha v'sharecha v'zebachinas Yaakov ish tam. This is an aspect of Yaakov Avinu. Why are we referencing Yaakov Avinu in the context of the mezuzah? Because we said about Yaakov Avinu that vayichan pnei ha'ir, that Yaakov Avinu rectified the whole city of Shechem. How? Because by rectifying the panim, how did he rectify the panim? Said the Gemara, two different interpretations, and we said both of them. That on one of the interpretations is that he was tikkun matbeya, right, which means he fixed up their problems with money, their perspectives on money. The other was that tikkun marchatzais, right, which Rebbe Nachman connected to Bas Pare going down to be Toivel, right? From what? From Avodah Zarah. Says the Rebbe, these are the same thing, right? He was tikkun for them, Tavis Mammon, which means he was misakin for them, Avodah Zarah, and that's the inyan of Yaakov Avinu, that therefore is Vayichan Pnei Ha'ir, because the Pnei is the Panim de Kedusha, is the Ayin An Pnei Hirit.
Maybe that's why the Rebbe didn't bring a different Anikel Shakkai. Because you would think the most obvious pasuk to bring before Anikel Shakkai Perave would be Anikel Shakkai Sadach Lefanav Heyeh Samim, because it's all about Tamim.
Beautiful.
So he especially brought that pasuk because
he's going to make a reference to Tamim. Gorgeous.
Shechem, it's not Tamim, because then you have the whole story with Dinah.
Excellent. Chidushim. Good. Amazing. Right, so ki al yodai, because it's a reference to Yaakov, because vayichan pnei ha'ir al yodai tikkun matbeya k'niskal. You'll put that on the discussion group later. Okay? And this is why, now we can understand another aspect of mezuzah, sharichas yamim ayidei mezuzah, that mezuzah will bring arichas yamim. Ki samach uchsavtam is laman yirbu yemechem. Right after uchsavtam we have laman yirbu, right? And there's a reference to arichas yamim. Kal yidei amuna b'masumatan ba'arachayim. Because to live with masumatan be'emuna, which is supported by the mezuzah, which is the inyan therefore of smach zvulun b'tzeisecha, is yirbu yemechem. Sometimes, by the way, in a very literal sense. There are people, let's say a person's in tremendous debt, it can cause physical illness. Like, it's a real thing. It's not just heart attacks just happen. It can be a result of emotional stress. And so it really all dials about, here we're speaking about quality of life. But it's also, it can actually be literal life. Because what begins emotionally has an impact, on a person's physical well-being, as the Rebbe is going to explain a little bit later on in the lesson. And therefore, like sometimes, not just ba'arachayim, like it will bring the quality of life, it can also bring quantity of life. Literally, If a person knows how to get into the right consciousness about finances, if a person knows, what to care about and what not to care about, if a person knows where their priorities should be and where they aren't, if a person knows, maybe you want to pass the water, just bring the water back to the table. If a person knows about this, then they have a chance of being a Mezuzah Yid, of being a Tikkun HaBris Yid, of being a Tam, right? Tam is also an aspect of the bris, right? Noach Tam. I think Yaakov is Tam. I think it also says about him Shanel L'Mal, right? Right. No, but it doesn't say that he was. Noach was, but it doesn't say. Tamim. Oh, that's what it is. Yes. And therefore, they learned from there, I believe, right? The Tamim Hayabedaraisav is that he. But there's another pasuk I'm forgetting now. That links bris to tam. Okay, whatever, because that's how they know that tamim means that. Right, but I don't know that that's the context of bris.
Yeah, it's not and then Hakadosh Baruch Hu says, "I'm giving you the mitzvah of bris."
Is that right next?
Yes.
Right next to it? Okay, it could be. I still think there's an explicit pasuk, but okay. Okay. Not relevant now, but I mean it is relevant. But that, meaning that's another element that's tied in here, right? So not just the quality of life, but orachayim, but literally lemani yirbu yimeichem, as a result of ichsavta mal mezuzah speisecha uvisherecha. Yeah.
That is why at times, if somebody is very unwell, people check the mezuzahs to see if they are complete or not. Right. Now, al pi pshat, because the pasuk already hints to the connection between them, right? L'man yirbu yimeichem, and so we'll check the mezuzah. But al pi what the Rebbe is saying, it goes deeper. Meaning, it isn't simply a metaphysical connection. Check the mezuzahs, make sure the mezuzahs are okay, because somehow just having a mezuzah on the door will support a person's long life. Lam davka. The Rebbe is saying the mezuzah is supposed to, like everything in Yiddishkeit. It's not stop you hang up a mezuzah and then you're good to go. The mezuzah, that's what Yiddishkeit has become. But again, the mezuzah is supposed to be supportive of a consciousness shift. It's supposed to be a reminder, right? And so apparently, what the Rebbe is saying is the reminder is what keeps you alive, right? Not just having a mezuzah on your door, right? By checking the mezuzah, meaning I would even go so far as to say lahepech. Sometimes the fact that a physical mezuzah could be damaged is as a result of a person not using it for what it's used for. So the physical damage, meaning on both sides, on the part of the person's physical body getting damaged as a result of them being out of touch with the arichas yamim of the arachayim, and the physical mezuzah gets damaged as a result of it not being used properly. So what's that?
There's no point just checking mezuzah and not living by what.
That's what you mean. Meaning, sometimes the fact that the mezuzah can be damaged, right, is, I would say, emblematic of this. That the reason that we are damaged physically is because of the spiritual lack that's happening on both sides, on the part of the person who's not using the mezuzah for what it's supposed to be used for, and the mezuzah that isn't being used for what it's supposed to be used for. He gets sick, and the mezuzah gets broken. But be'emes, the mezuzah is really there to be used, right? The mezuzah is there for a reason. So I like to say, it's not just what the halacha is, it's what the halacha is for, right? What is it for? So now that we know the halacha, okay, now we know what kosher mezuzah. Now what is it for? What do you use this thing for, right? We know how to build it, we know how to install it, but what is it?
What's the tzavsa?
Huh?
What's the tzavsa?
What's the tzavsa in the mitzvah? Yeah.
I think that what is also his halakha from Abayisam. By the breath, it's Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu Avraham, and then the Moil says it before.
Okay, excellent. Well done. Excellent. Okay, v'zeh amru, and then the Gemara says over there, mikra nidrush lefanav. This is the mikra. This is the pasuk that he's darshaning to link arichas yamim and mezuzah. And it says mikra nidrush lefanav. So what a strange thing to say. Give a drasha. Right? We know it's a medrash, meaning we know it's a drush that you're connecting this pasuk to that pasuk. Why did he need to say mikra nidrush lefanav? This manda amar that's making this connection was making a drasha. Mikra nidrush lefanav, says the Rebbe, because the Gemara wanted to make reference to panim de kedusha. Mikra nidrush lefanov. Vayichan pnei ha'ir, ayin anpin hire. Because in the context of linking mezuzah to arichas yamim, which is the whole thing of masomatan be'emuna, and what it is able to avail a person, so then you have to make reference to the face. Which means the light of a person's face, a person's really alive. And this is the most mind-blowing part of the whole thing. I mean, this whole paragraph is just, it's just incredible. It's really incredible. Because the connections are deep. You know, it's like, it's not one or two. It's like, it turns out the whole sugya of mezuzah is all making reference, you know, to this, and once you know this, then you understand the whole thing of mezuzah. But this is the most incredible one. Listen to this. It gets a double underline in Likutei. It's not a huge riot. There are a lot of things that double. Almost the whole sefer is underlined, frankly. The Gemara Menachah says, where do you hang the mezuzah? In the upper third of the doorpost. The upper third. Right? And Tumah the Amrim, which way should it be? Should it be vertical? Should it be horizontal? Make it slanting? Right? You do both. Why is it in the Shlisha Elyon? What's the depth of that? Because there has to be depth in that. It's not just you should see it eye level. That's how people shot. Says the Rebbe, and again, only the Rebbe is making these connections. Only he knew, like the pneumius are that warrants now bringing these two things together, because otherwise you just don't see the connection. Says the Rebbe, now that you understand that mezuzah is zuz, and zuz is the movement from internal to external, and that's the concept of smach zvulun b'tzeisecha as a result of the mezuzah having Shakkai written on it. That's the inin of bris, that's the inin of arachayim, that's the nuchsav tam, Ya'akov ish tam, b'yichan pnei ha'ir, right, arichas yamim, mikra nidros lefanav. Now that you know what mezuzah is a little bit, says the Rebbe, check this out. The Gemara in Baba Metzia says, Ki Amar Chachamin is V'racha. The Gemara says, La'olam yishalish esmoisav. A person should always split up their money, their resources, into three. A third should be put into pragmatia, which is masa umatan. A third should be invested in karka, right? Should be to buy land, and a third should be kept mizuman, right? That you can liquid, that you can access it. Says the Rebbe, okay. So here we have a concept of finances split into three. Now, how do I know which is the highest or which is the lowest? So the Rebbe will take you to another Gemara in Yerushalmi Peah to tell you that if we had to identify a shlish ha'elyon, right, now that I have three components of finances, right, I have karka, I have mizuman, and I have pragmatia, right, which is mekach umemkar, and I want to know which is the most mu'uleh, which is the highest of it. He says, no problem. He says, look in the Yerushalmi Peah Perek Ches, because the Gemara says over there, ushlisha, that and supports this, that says the Rebbe shlisha elyon hu shlisha pragmatia. It must be that the upper third is the third of investing in mekach umemkar. Kaman Chachamim is Chanadarach, as the Gemara says in Yerushalmi Peah, tavin chamshin da'avdin. Better chamshin da'avdin, better 50 that are avdin, that are producing peiros, right? You invested them wisely, and it's an investment, and it's coming back all the time. Mimasin da'avdin, from having 100 in the bank, but it's not invested, right? And that's a clear reference to mekach umemkar, because that's the place where a person is investing and a person is making money. Karka is stable. Karka is stable, means the money is there. A person has liquid, you need liquid, right? It's there if you need it. And then in mekach umemkar, it's avdin pairs. Says the Rebbe, if here you have finances split into three, this Gemara would enable you to identify the upper third as mekach umemkar. Go back to the Gemara in Menachos. Where do you hang the mezuzah? In the upper third of the doorway. Says the Rebbe, that upper third is keneged shlish pragmatia, because the mezuzah is keneged mekach umemkar. Pile plain. Let's just hold on a second. Let's just read it. Right? Let's just read it. So taven chamshin da'adam v'san the ikra emuna, because we're all talking about masu matam emuna, that the mezuzah is there to fortify as I leave my home. Smach zvulun b'tzeisecha. The ikra emuna is tzarich lias b'masu matam.
That's where you really need to have emunah. Kamaisha Amru, like they said, the Gemara in Shabbos, and again, people read this the wrong way. Because people read in Nasasav and Nasat of Emunah that you do your business faithful, meaning that you do your business honestly. But of course, that's an aspect of it. Obviously, you can't imagine a person who's in the consciousness of the Tam, who's mamish a person who's sameach bechelka, who's not cheating other people in business. Those two things don't go together. Can't be, right? So why would you do that? Meaning, if a person's mamish whole with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and living for the right reasons, then they don't need to, because then they really believe that what I make, and when I don't, I don't. And that's all min hashamayim. And that's what's supposed to be. And it doesn't need to impact my emotional state one iota, because I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm happy with what I do, and I'm happy with what I have. So of course it means that also, but the Rebbe says no. It means, and this fortifies again our reading of Maso Matan Be'emuna. That's what it means. Nasasa v'nasata be'emuna. Maso Matan needs emuna. Needs emuna in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because it isn't so steady. And it's not a paycheck at the end of the month. It's a different thing. You don't know. Don't know where a deal will come from. It's not as stable. It's not as steady. And the Rebbe, by the way, just to say, I gave shiurim this in the past in the Sichos Ran series. The Rebbe wanted that his talmidim, unless there are extenuating circumstances, he wanted them to be involved in business, davka business. He said, because if you're a teacher, it's katzav, you're only going to get what you get. He says, in Mekach Memkar, there's risk, but there's also, potential tremendous gain, because things are zuzzing, things are moving. Right over here, it maybe you get a little raise, time to time, every couple of years, maybe, But wink, wink. There's some teachers in the room, right? So yeah,
decrease it.
Oh yeah. So you know what I'm saying? It's set. It's not, But if a person's in business, you never know. Get more clients one month. You get less clients in 1 month. There are inyanim. You could finagle. You can.
It's electric rather than static.
It's something exactly. It moves. It's zuzin. So says the Rebbe. It's davka maso matan. There it needs big emunah. Nimtza she'ikra mamain. I would also say, because I just mentioned parenthetically, but I mentioned it when I gave that shiur, that I understand that not only begashmias. I understand that Rebbe Nachman wants you to be a businessman beruchnias. Meaning, like, you can be safe as a fan, standing on the stands and watching the game, and it's very safe, and the experience is assured. Like in America, at least, you buy your hot dog, you buy your beer, buy your popcorn. It's going to be great. You sit and it's a dependable experience. Or you can be like on the field,
in the arena.
You can be in the arena, or the man in the arena. You can be on the field. You can lose, sure. And it can be a horrible, horrible night, and it can be sad, and there can be errors, and your coach can yell at you, and but you could also win, So the Rebbe wanted in Yiddishkeit yes, it's a more, let's say, turbulent path. Let's say the path of Hisbodedus, where the Rebbe, likens the 3 tefillos of the day to the highway that's paved. Shemana Esrei, safe. Super safe Shemana Esrei. Meaning a Shemana Esrei life it's all there for you. It's printed in the book. You just say the words. All the tikkunim happen. It's a highway Yiddishkeit. It's very smooth. Hisbodedus, the Rebbe said, is called the Shvil Menatzad, the path to the side. Shvil Menatzad comes from the story of our lives, from the story of the lost princess, right? Where that's how he finds the princess, because he goes off the beaten path. This connects to what we learned in Torah Chof Beis, breaking free from the azos of an institution and finding your own individuality, finding your own voice. But he goes on a Shvil Menatzad. Shvil Menatzad is Rosh Tevis.
Hashem?
Best, yes. But also, that's interesting, Moshe, right? The path of the tzaddik, of the Moshe Rabbeinu tzaddik, Shvil Menatzad, you have to move it around a bit, right? Is the inyan of says the Rebbe, it's like a shortcut through the, through the forest. But it's not paved, and you could scrape yourself on thorns, and you can trip over a root, and you can get dirty, and there are wild animals, and but it's alive. It's your own. It's your own. And says the Rebbe, there's such a thing called highway robbers, but there isn't such a thing called random path through the thicket in the forest robbers. Okay, but this is not even a footpath. This is mamish blazing your own trail. Mamish, There's no one there because they don't know. They don't know about it. It says the Rebbe says that when a person's davening Shemona Esrei of Shachris Mincha Maariv, there are highway robbers there because they know the tefillah. And I think that the way to interpret that is rote. Right? That's the Yitzhahara. Asher karcha baderech, because you're on the derech that Amalek knows about. Mebela, it's kriras. You can't do Hispodidus by rote. How could you? The whole inyan of Hispodidus is that there's no script. It's totally authentic. It's totally. It has to be real. And if it's not real, so don't go and do Hispodidus. I mean, you can't. The thing has to be spontaneous and real. Memela, there are no robbers there. There's no. But there's risk, because once you're in the arena, you can get punched around a bit, and it hurts much more. And you read this matter, and the visceral feelings are much more intense. The Rebbe says, please do me a favor. Don't be salaried. He says, go into business. Rebbe wants you to be a spiritual businessman. Yeah.
I just want to be mekasher. So we have the high risk parnassah, which is where emunah is required also in order to be able to sleep at night when your boat is on the water and you have no idea, you haven't heard. That's what requires emunah. But that's also about Eretz emunah, about Eretz Yisrael, because we're reliant on the rain. There's no petrol.
Right. That's right. Emunah, right? The pasuk says, "As Seder Zroim," right? Rashi, right? The Gemara tells us, right? Each of those words is a reference to one of the Shishu Siddur Mishnah, and the word Emunah is Seder Zroim. Rashi says over there because the farmers, the essence of their whole geschäft is out of their control. It's an amazing thing.
So being out of control in the sense, and
precisely
is the thing.
That's what he means. Precisely.
And maybe also kilomir about Am Yisrael. It's not because of your mind. Your mind is lomirupchem.
Ki atem ma'at, ki atem mam'itim atzmachem. The Gemara says. That's right.
Just for the imagery of that we know that they're robbers and the classic sort of highway, motorway, whatever it is. I don't know if it's in America or in the UK, but in South Africa, where there's mamish highway robbery, in broad daylight robbery, they have, this is just brilliant for the imagery, there are actually many roads, or any South African listener will know exactly what I'm talking about, there are many roads where there's this big sign, like a government-made sign that says, do not slow down here, this is a classic robbery spot or something. Meaning even the warnings are rote. So like it's so easy just to say, this is like we know there's many traffic lights in Johannesburg. You don't stop at these traffic lights. If it's red, just go. At night, if there's no cars, just go, because if you stop, you will be hijacked there. And so even
sounds like a lovely place to live.
Yeah, it's great, by the way. Everyone should go there for holidays. It's only £1,000 a ticket.
Robbers for the next 10 miles.
But like
one of those yellow signs with like the silhouette of a robber.
But I just find like it's exactly like even the warning can be rote, and it's like so almost easy. The tachpulus are so easy, whereas the shvil min atzad, you have no idea what's coming. You don't know what you're meant to do. So
that's right. Robbers, there won't be. There might be, other strong emotions, difficult feelings, aliyas and yeridas. It's not paved. There are ups and downs. There are bumps in the road. It's a different kind of Yiddishkeit. It's a.
When you're not when a person is not davening the Shmoneh properly, they go from the side as well. Like we said, you need to fill a there at some time.
Yeah, but that's a slightly different. Okay, now we're getting into the amkus of the mashal. But okay,
I think Shlomo Natzad is actually Shama. It's like that's where you need to be.
Beautiful. Okay, Nesas Avrasata be'emunah nimsa she'ikra amaman shesham sarich emunah b'shlish elyon she b'shlish sheba prakmat yamamela. Where else should the mezuzah go? Gotta hang the mezuzah on the top third of the doorway, which is connected shlish sheba prakmatya. Unbelievable to put those two things together. All the mitzvahs that a person does without spending lots of money, without wanting to really invest and to spend money on mitzvahs like we'll spend money on other things. right? Like a beautiful esrog, like different beautiful things for their mitzvahs. I think esrog is pretty emblematic because like other things are, the esrog, you're putting all this money. First of all, it's be'etzim something very cheap. Any other time of year you can buy it for, for however many pounds wherever you live in Italy, wherever they actually sell this, right? Again during the year, but also because you'll not be able to use this again. It's not like investing in like nice Shabbos candles, a nice talis, beautiful tefillin. Like an esrog is I would say like mamash emblematic because that's it. You're putting, let's say, 100 pounds into a fruit that you will never ever use again. Unless you make esrog vodka and whatever, save it. But
you can plant.
Huh?
It has seeds.
Okay, I don't. I imagine less than 0.5% from Jews throughout history have ever planted their esrog. But this is it's something that's she'in rotzeh lahafsid mammon. It's going to go to loss. B'shvil mitzvah. Zeh b'china nikar tzedek. So that means that the person is just spending the absolute necessary on the mitzvah. That's called tzedek, right? It's just what you need to do. It's the thing itself. Without tzivisa tzedek eidosecha. That's what it means, right? There are people who tzivisa, which is mitzvahs, tzedek eidosecha. They do the mitzvahs with tzedek, which again is not a bad thing. It's just not right. Hisna lefanai b'mitzvahs. It should be zakei levan veyu. Person should spend more. Person should beautify. But they're doing the mitzvah. They're just doing the basic minimum. Right? Tzivisa tzedek eidosecha. Avol kishechaviv kol kacha mitzvah. When a mitzvah, right, like it's Shabbos, other things are so chaviv at she'ein margish b'hefsed mammon, where he doesn't think about it at all. This is called emunah. Ki ikra emunah hu b'mammon, because like we said before, the primary emunah is going to manifest, and like the indicator is how a person is with their money. When a person breaks their tavis mammon and they do maso matan be'emunah, shesham panim de kedusha. That's so the person is able to access the panim de kedusha, the really holy way of living in this world, which is something we're all striving for, yearning for, longing for so deeply. So the end of the pasuk is tivisa tzedek edesecha ve'emunah ma'od. So says the Rebbe, split the pasuk. Tzivis, the tzedek eidosecha, is a reference to the people who spend the bare minimum tzedek, right? Tzivisa, the mitzvahs are tzedek. But then the other part of the pasuk is referring to those people who mamish, they're not choishish for the money. That's called ve'emunah ma'od. Why do we use the word emunah? Because emunah, right, is a reference to maso matan ve'emunah, meaning they're people whose relationship with money is first and foremost founded on their relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and their emunah. Why ma'od? Ma'od zeh mammon, kama shekasu v'chol ma'odecha, right? V'chol mamoincha. So the emunah ma'od is both a reference to an expenditure of money that's founded on a person's emunah. So we're going to stop here because the next thing is quite long and we don't have that much time left. So we're gonna stop. But I'll just say, to clarify, everything that we're learning in Likutei like we learned. I think I mentioned it was in Rabbi Itchemayer's Geulah last week, 2 weeks ago. The whole thing of Rebbe Nachman of Likutei is teichacha. It's musar. It's real musar. But like we said, it's just said in such a way that we're learning it, and it's so beautiful, and it's so gentle, and it's menatzat. Yeah, he comes at it from the side. The Rebbe knows how to give teichacha without waking up the negative baskal, like we learned about in Torah Chof days. Was it? Torah Chof Beis or Torah Chof Aleph, Torah Chof Beis. Yeah, the Kol Havara. Without a Kol Havara, it's just he wakes up the holiness inside. He lets us know, I think you're a tzaddik already, and Gewalt, you have to reveal that inner tzaddik, and that's why, like Rebbe Nachman said, every word that I say is farvasht mitrerin. He said is full of tears. Like every word is like full of longing, yearning, crying, knowing that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, and it has the aspect of ratzai, to know that there's so many more madreigos that we're yearning for, and it also has the aspect of shaiv. The Rebbe is that perfect balance between both. However, we have to really keep, or I would say, therefore, we have to keep in mind everything that we're learning about is really difficult. It's really difficult. It's easy to read and learn, it is really difficult to zuz, to move even an inch. We for tavis achila. It's so easy to talk about tavis achila. It is really, really difficult. It could be a lifetime of work. Just trying to say, taking a bris, right? Our perspectives in Masamatan. These are huge madreigos, huge, and it can take a person lifetime of work. Going, and we're going to learn in Torah Nun Beis, midah by midah, and they're going to learn different strategies to be able to implement these. But I don't want that a person should walk away from here either thinking, number one, the Rebbe makes it sound so easy, and why is it so hard for me? No, it's hard for him, and it's hard for everyone. Or number two, to think that we suffice by just learning it, but we have to actually do it, and the doing it is really, really hard. Or number three, to say because it's so difficult, let's be honest, like I can't do it. And you can, and we can, and I can, and I still believe that I can, even though I'm very distant from all of this. I have to make that disclaimer also. I don't claim to, I'm teaching about these things, but we're learning it b'chabura. I'm also journeying toward these things. All of us are. The only person who had this all was the Rebbe. He was on these madreigos. For the rest of us, we're striving, we're on the journey. The Rebbe is setting the bar very high, not because he's making our lives miserable and it's impossible to reach the bar that he's setting for us. He's setting a bar that he really believes that we could reach. But it's not all at once, and it's meaning what I'm trying to say is our reality and the reality of Likutei Moharan are matim, even though it might take a very long time for us to move and get there. But they are matim. We could get there. The Rebbe said, "Take my hand, I will show you a path that you can become a tzaddik." So the Rebbe k'moini mamish, you can be an exactly my madreiga. And that's for every single Jew. He wasn't talking about, Rabbanim, Dayanim, Tzaddikim, Rebbetzins. He was speaking about every single Yid, without qualification. Every Yid is a big tzaddik, and every Yid needs to reveal the big tzaddik inside of them. That's also true. That should be the second part of the song. I don't think it would fit that well. Every Yid needs to reveal their big tzaddik inside of them. Right? Because we have a big tzaddik, but it's not enough. So now, it's good, you're a big tzaddik. I would like to see it once in a while. Let's see it. Let's reveal it. And that's the avodah. Hashem should help us, mamish, to believe in ourselves. To believe in ourselves, even a tiny percentage of what the Rebbe believed in us, and not to give up, and to do step after step. Just the fact that these ideas are on our radar and we're talking about them every morning is already, is miles and miles and miles and miles ahead. Because for most people, it's heartbreaking to say, these ideas never cross their mind once. It's b'chalal not on their radar. Like I said, maybe we think about taking a bris, taking achila, taking, like mezuzah, as something that's supposed to be used to fortify a conscious masamatan be'emuna. Most people aren't thinking about this, and we're thinking about it. And we're far away, so it's full of tears, but we're yearning, we're crying, we're davening. At least we know what we're supposed to be striving for, and we're on the journey. And remember what we learned ultimately when it comes to Yiddishkeit: Yismach Leib, Mevakshe Hashem. Once you're on the journey, so there's already simcha. We're not there yet. None of us are. We're on the way. We're baderech. Baderech siparti ma'isa. Okay, Shakkai. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I had once said that I don't remember where it's from, but that Gehenna is the reality of they show you an image and you say that looks like you but it's not me. So maybe that could have been you, and that's
right, the busha. Yeah, the Rebbe said that at the end of Torah Chof Beis. That's the ikar busha of Gehenna. The ikar tsar of Gehenna is the busha.
And it dawns on me that what the Rebbe is doing for us is he's holding up out now, like now. Don't wait till then. I'm showing you now.
ישמח לב מבקשי השם ידרידאי ראיו ידרידאי ראיו ידרידאי ראיו